our course, so.
Well, getting to podcast today. What's our subject?
Yeah, right. So I had a couple of ideas. I don't know if you're down with it or not. One of them was, I was thinking like, well, Kevin is not here to push back too much, so we have a little more flexibility in terms of like if we want to go off the rails a little bit. Um,
Hmm.
there's a couple of things happening. Thanksgiving is coming up, but we already did a Thanksgiving episode. So I kind of feel like that's like beating a dead horse, Like we've already kind of talked about that. Um,
Yeah.
the other thing I was thinking about is both of us are quite entrepreneurial, and I want and I and the a lot of the foreigners that I meet in because I'm in like these like kind of groups, these Discord groups where I talk to like these other foreigners, and they're always kind of amazed that uh that I was able to parlay teaching into other realms, and you've
Hmm.
always done that, and I don't know how much you want
No,
to divulge about that. I mean, because I don't want you to
I
like
think at
have
this
to.
point, I mean, yeah, we brought this up in the early days when we started this podcast. And I know I kind of shut down wanting to talk about one of the particular ventures.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think I feel safe talking about it now. It's just been a kind of yeah, it's it's still there's certain details and things that I think we might be better off skipping,
Oh yeah, yeah,
um
no problem.
but in general, I think I know what you're talking about. I've often uh get the either compliment or criticism. It's the same thing someone says, but it's like delivered with a different intonation. And it's
Yeah.
always that I have either too many hobbies or I'm doing lots of stuff. It's either impressive or it's meant to be kind of like an insult. I'm not sure.
Right, right. And I would say there's even like a third tranche or third element to that. And that's like the black-pilled foreigner who says that there's no opportunities in Korea. It's all bullshit. I got to go back home. You know what I mean? And there's like that thing, and
Yeah.
it's just like, wait a second. I don't actually I think there are just as many opportunities to be entrepreneurial in Korea. As a matter of fact, there may be more oxygen in the room than America, as far as just like you don't if you're starting a business, you don't even need to sponsor someone's healthcare. It's part of you're not spending 1/3 of your day looking over insurance plans that you have to give your employee. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just it's a totally different, it's a much easier kind of thing here. So I thought that might be an interesting idea of just to like, you know, I just don't want it to sound like we're bragging either. Like, oh, look
Oh
how
no,
much
I wouldn't.
shit
I
we
don't.
did,
I'm not too worried
and
about.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, look, both of us have been here for more than, geez, how many years have you been down
Almost
there?
20 years. I mean, I've been here
Yeah,
over
all
20
right.
years. Yeah.
Yeah. So that provide that in itself. I mean, if the listeners can understand one thing from this is that, I've been here for 13, you've been here for almost 20.
Hmm.
That's a lot of time for things to happen. Like
Yeah.
you're bound to something. Um, Even going back to when I lived in America, I always enjoyed having little independent projects. Like
Mhm.
I play music. So I played in bands and I never really was that interested in taking it super seriously. People I played with were more serious. Some of them are now professional musicians.
Mhm.
Yeah, but they wanted that when we were in our early 20s. For me, I enjoyed the production process. I loved printing our own tapes and CDs and making the artwork, going on tour. Those things were just fun. It wasn't a vision of like a career that I necessarily wanted to do. But I've been that
Right.
way. It doesn't have to be like music. I lived in a house briefly. It's like a hippie house, and we would do like a breakfast um bake sale thing. on Sundays to pad out, you know, pay the rent.
Yeah.
I took the helm on that because it's just fun. I've sold in Korea at one point in time. I don't know if Kevin minds talking about this, probably not, but we actually had a illegal, you know, little street vending thing where we sold smoked salmon just because we had built a smoker and I had this cryovac. We could cryovacking the smoked salmon.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
hot smoked salmon, like Indian candy. And so yeah, just the process. I really, you know, going to Noryanjin, trying to source good salmon,
Yep.
um, learning about, you know, how to, you know, cure the meat, develop the pellicle, and like building the drum smoker and like all this. And then yeah, it just seems like it's the logical next step is to share it and then sell it. It just that's sort of the kind of thing that happens.
I'm totally with you. I think that's I think that's like a liability and and a virtue that I have is like I really enjoy the process. Um, so the part of podcasting that I really love is probably not the actual doing the podcast, but I love creating the icon and the art.
Yeah,
I love the process of uploading it, editing it, putting it all together, packaging it, and then seeing it as a complete piece of, well, I guess a piece of art. I mean, for lack of a better word, or a product, you know? Um,
yeah,
and
it's like
yeah,
oh
but
sorry, I was gonna ask you, I was gonna segue to something else. Continue.
oh no, and I was gonna say, I'm not sure if the podcast is even if that's even where the juice is. I might feel the same way if I were sitting on a porch whittling sticks into figurines and then bringing them, setting up a table, setting up my figurines, getting my little money box in the, State Fair, and then just seeing people enjoy what I made and getting satisfaction
Yeah,
from that and purchasing it and getting validation for
I got to bookmark this thought and come and see you in like 50 years.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Maybe the long beard whittling.
long beard, whittling sticks. I mean, it's weird. I think there are creative types, and I think that word gets um I mean, I guess we could start right here because this is really the kind of crux of what our conversation might be is I think creative types often get conflated with the arts. And I don't
Mm.
know if the arts is necessarily, I don't know if that's the tent under which all creativity exists, or if creativity is a much larger tent and art is just part of something that fits underneath that large tent of creativity. Because
That's a
yeah.
philosophical question, right? So like,
Hmm.
I mean, you could parse it a few different ways. Maybe it'd be pretty safe to say that things that we normally, you know, in our contemporary culture and language refer to as art, those are things that go headfirst into expression.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
if they're expressive, you know, that's like an artistic thing. It's got to be, especially personally expressive.
Hmm.
It has to be like this subjective voice that's really obvious. It comes from that person. That person is the artist. Whereas someone who's building just really nice cabinetry, or uh,
Frank
you
Lloyd
know, that
Wright,
become
you know?
yeah. Well, then there's like yeah, there's gray areas like this. But
Yeah.
I mean like yeah, people that just enjoy the labors of creating things. I mean, I don't know, it's not necessarily the same. I don't know, I feel like there you could parse it that way, but not necessarily, it's not necessary. I
Hmm.
prefer to think that like I like to tinker, I like just to do stuff. I'm
Hmm.
you know, I'll go a year, 2 years where I'm just really excited about painting pictures. I think from 2016 to 2019, I was drawing a lot. I had a student who came to my tutoring sessions, and she was one of my students for one of my classes, so I knew her, and she brought I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, Wacom tablet, Wacom. It's a it's like a black square that you can draw on with a stylus,
Oh
and it's
yeah,
for
I
painting.
a lot of my art students have those. They're a little bit expensive though, but and they're
Yeah, well, she
specific, yeah, for art
yeah,
students.
so she had
Yeah,
one, and she let me try it in the tutoring session, and I was kind of laughing like, wow, so cool. I've never done digital stuff. I didn't have like an iPad or any stuff. She's like, borrow it. And I was like, what if I break it? She's like, it's cheap, just borrow it. So I felt responsible to try to produce something because she
yeah,
lent it to me.
right, right,
So and I sucked with it. I mean, I had it like on an angle, so I couldn't quite. I mean, I did. It took me forever to figure out how to use this damn thing,
yeah,
but I managed to um, create something that I liked, and in the process, I discovered that actually I really liked using the stylus and the digital setup. I went and got an iPad just because it seemed like an easy thing all in one. They just had the stylus and everything,
yeah,
and I went pretty serious into just digital drawing and painting for a few years. But now I'm not doing it like at all. I don't think I've drawn anything unless I needed to sketch out something for, like laying out furniture in a room. I haven't done anything like painting, digital or otherwise, really, in probably over a year.
yeah,
And that's okay. I'm doing something else because I'm not like an artist. I just like to do stuff.
right. And I think that's the difference. I mean, I think there are. I'm trying to think of an example of a a brilliant guitar player. Um, let's say the Chili Peppers, John Frusciante probably spent the age of 12 to 20 in his room 7 hours a day practicing scales.
Yeah,
I mean, just, what I mean? It was an absolute obsession to the
mhm.
point of
That's an artist. Yeah.
yeah, and for me, I'm not wired that way. I get into something and then I need to move on to something else. And you know what I mean? Like I think maybe you were similar way. Like you get into the drawing and then you just feel this kind of compulsion to like, okay, I want to spread my wings in a different way. And
Let's try something else. I think it's how we ended up
yeah,
out here, maybe. There was opportunity,
that's
but
true.
also
Yeah.
the idea of things being kind of episodic. I think I really enjoy that, and I see that among not all, but a lot of teachers, and especially teachers that have the opportunity to teach in higher education like we do. I
Hmm.
see, I think there is a correlation between having a semester schedule where you get 2 months of no classes in the summer and in the winter.
Yeah.
And so you have, like your semester, it's a show. It's a show. And every week
Hmm.
there's a part to the show, and it's developmental, and you're linking ideas. You know, and when you get to the end, you do the exams, you do the paperwork, there's closure. It's episodic.
Yes.
And
Yes.
look at teachers, look at teachers that I think appreciate that system, or they get something out of that closure and moving on to the next thing. You get people like George, who is featured on this podcast already. I think I missed
Yeah,
his.
we did interview George. He also wrote a book recently, so we'd like to talk to him about that, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We got to get him back.
Yeah.
But George is a great example. I
Hmm.
mean, George takes interests in things, and can shift his focus, and still, taking things to completion. So, like, he finished that book. He's avid adventurer. Every break he gets, he's planning ahead because he's going to
Hmm.
make a trip. I am going to, like his book, he's riding his bike through Ethiopia. That's a thing I am doing. I'm going
Hmm.
to ride my bike through Mongolia. It's, thing I'm going to do. And he, plan it all out. And again, it's like an episode, but it's not just his adventuring or writing a book. He's, he's very interested in finance. I've had really great conversations with him about finance. Um, it's gotten me interested to take my savings investments a little more seriously. Um, I noticed this.
Hmm.
among people that have the the school schedule. And it doesn't really need to be higher education. I think it's the same if you're teaching high school or anything, as long as it's not an academy or something, or private tutoring where it's never ending. It's infinite because every month you kind of just repeat the pattern.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I,
For
I
those
think the
of our
seamless
listeners that
structure.
that don't know about what the Hagwon system is, the Hagwon system is basically you enter and it goes as long as you can handle it. Like there's no
Well, there's a vacation.
well,
Yeah,
there's
you
like
can
a
get. I
two
mean,
like a 1 week or a 2 week vacation, but essentially you're right back to square one, teaching the same book. And to me, that was just the way I'm hardwired, is soul crushingly painful to a degree that I just can't it's hard to articulate because there's no end. And for me, I just need a beginning, a middle, and an ending, Like I don't
well,
know.
that like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's why like holidays were invented, like to give people this feeling of like transition.
There's
Like even if you have a
something.
large vacation, let's say you're working for any job and you get a month off, right? That's fine. But if your job doesn't give you progress, if you don't feel like you're growing towards something, well, that's like,
Yeah.
it's like a factory job. And that's okay for some people. Some people don't mind a factory job. And I think that's what a lot of like, if you're teaching at a academy here, that's probably what you're doing. You might be taking a student through a process,
Hmm.
maybe there's a series of units you're trying to get through or concepts. Well, that if you enjoy this kind of episodic way of working and creating, that's probably something you're drawn to. And you know what? You're probably going to be a better teacher because you're focusing on progress.
That's
But
true.
if you're
Yeah.
doing something where, like, I went to a Korean hagwon, good hagwon. Um, I learned a lot. I liked it, but every day was pretty much the same. The I ended up leaving after a year because the teachers would just allow new people to add to the room. So it was like drop in.
Yeah.
So you were seeing new people every week. Um, and so the lesson was a lot of redundancy. It wasn't really, there was no pattern to it. And the
You
teacher,
weren't building
it was a good
something
process. I
or
learned
building
something, but the
anything.
teacher was,
Yeah.
yeah, the teacher was kind of uninspired in that way because it was just like presenting the same show over and over. Um, I learned quite a bit there, so that's why I say it was a good class. But I don't think it's the best way to run a class. I don't know.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. And we'll try not to keep this too teacher centric,
Yeah,
as
right.
some of our listeners might not be educators. But what about the entrepreneurial aspects of living in Korea? Like you said, you mentioned before, I don't know if we were recording or not, you had a salmon smoker, and so you decided to, like, why waste it on just, like, using it in the house. You took it out on the street and you actually you guys were
It's kind
selling
of an
salmon. I'm kind of
it's yeah,
curious
it's
about
kind
the
of a
story.
no
Yeah.
it's kind of a no-brainer. I've seen other there's a coworker, uh probably shouldn't name names because of maybe legality things. I don't know.
Yeah,
She would
sure.
sell handmade jewelry.
Oh,
Uh
okay, okay.
down the street, like an Itaewon. Um I think there's an opportunity when you're in a city of like 10 million people. So okay, Kevin and I, we decided that we wanted to build a smoker. And so we went to Shindong and we bought like a big oil drum and had it cut and had a
Mm.
propane element stuck into it. And I had these propane tanks at home for a totally another reason, these huge
Right.
full-size propane tanks that I was using for a different project.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe we'll
yeah,
talk about that project.
yeah.
Um, and so yeah, we were smoking different things and the salmon came out just so nice. And we had a cryovac, sealer just to
Hmm.
preserve, after we smoked it.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were just kind of like looking at the packages and was like, damn, these look professional. It just kind of looked like something you buy in a store because it's cryovac.
Yeah, sure.
And it was just as easy to make more. It's the same amount of effort to make 10 times as much, or something like this. So yeah, we loaded up. I had an igloo cooler and I just loaded it up. We made I think it was made out of like jeans. Yeah, it was like jean material. We painted big words Salmon Brothers on it. And then we would go downstairs to the bars, around crawling time. And it was like I don't know what price point we put, but it was just like salmon, $5, like a lemonade stand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it all sells. You get a pile of money on your lap, and it's just fun. It's just fun.
Oh,
I like
yeah.
I like the feeling of creating money versus like the earning of it. I don't know why. That's a weird way to say it, but
Yes.
hourly work doesn't like work for me. I like to feel like it's creating it, I guess. That's fun.
Yeah, I know exactly
Fish,
what you're talking
fish, I
about.
cook this propane and yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's the entrepreneurial aspect of it is like you're right. I think you're a creative type, and but you're also cognizant of the fact that even creative types need to eat. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's not um just because you were selling it doesn't mean it's not creative. You know what I mean? Like I think some people
Well,
think
yeah, I didn't make it. I think it sounded like it wasn't like I mean, you're not going to get rich in selling salmon, and that's not exactly a career concept.
sure,
Never
sure.
was an idea. It was never a vision to do that. But the idea that you could take that money and then you could use it to buy more salmon, to try another project, to do more, and then you could pay for the smoker. You could, um, it's just kind of fun to be like, hey, I pulled this into existence. That's the
Hmm.
feeling, like, I mean, as dumb as it sounds, this little thing, but yeah, maybe we paid for the hardware, with the profit, and it's kind of fun. It's like, hey, we just created that thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally know what you mean. And there's another aspect of this too. It's like I used to think like I used to listen to the Joseph Campbell quote, which was "Follow your bliss." He used to say that, and I do agree with that. I mean, I think that if I do believe that if you find something that you really love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. I think
Working
that
out for me.
yeah, that canard, I think is actually has some truth to it. But I also think in the same respect, there was like my wife and I, um, about 10 years ago, we made the decision to purchase a building, which was it was a kind of convoluted situation where we had to sell our apartment and then give that money to the building owner and then absorb her mortgage, and then that mortgage
Hmm.
became our mortgage. And so then we were kind of like in that situation where, man, we got to work, like we got to pay this mortgage down. um we at the bottom of the building there's a commercial floor, and we decided to pull the trigger and make a coffee shop. And I don't know anything about coffee. You could give me the taste test, like Maxim, in a cup, and a fine Italian espresso, and
Yeah,
they
I wanted to ask you about this particularly because I,
yeah.
I remember you mentioning you had the commercial space.
Mhm.
So was it just, I mean, there's so many coffee shops in Korea. It seems like it must be a pretty safe way to go. Is it just that was just the basis of the decision, or was there some specific reason you didn't go with, like, I don't know, you could make a little pyeongjam or something. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, no,
Like you could.
that's a good question. That's a good question. We're right across from a
Oh, noodles.
school, so there are certain zoning regulations of like what we could have and what we couldn't have. We could have a pyeonwijam, but there is literally three pyeonwijams, sorry, three convenience stores within like a stone's throw away from our building. So it would just
Okay.
be saturating again the market with like way too many of those things. And so there was also restrictions about like a school had left. It was a hagwon, and the city hall said you can only have A, B, C, and D in here. Like you can't have another school, you can't have this or that. And so we were left with like very few options. And what we decided was a mooing cafe. That's where, and again, a lot of our listeners are probably um punching the table or right now saying, that's not a coffee shop, how dare you, it's sacrilege. And mooing, for our listeners who don't know, means that there's no barista. So you just stick your card in, and the cup falls down. You put the ice falls into the cup. You just do it all by yourself. It's self-serve. So there is
Mm.
no
Yeah, and
overhead,
for listeners that aren't in Korea or a big city, I'm sure it's in other places. The quality of automated systems like this, they're getting really damn good.
Yeah, it is
Like,
getting better. Yeah.
yeah, one of the ones in there's a building that I teach in. They put in a new unit just last year.
Yeah.
Um, I look forward to getting that coffee. And
Right.
sadly, upstairs there's an actual cafe with like four very busy baristas. Um, their coffee's worse. I have to say it. It comes from a damn touchscreen. It's better. Actually, I'm telling you, if I'm gonna sell a product right now. 2 days
Go to the
ago,
moon. Yeah.
here at the house, my girlfriend and I, we just got our old espresso unit. We had a DeLonghi. It finally just died, and it was so dirty. And she's like, "All right, pack it up. We're getting a fully automatic system." So this is a
Yeah.
system. You push the button,
Grinds the
it bangs out
beans.
a cappuccino, whatever. And
Yeah.
I was against it. For me,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
want to have something nice,
Yeah.
control, temperature control. Where's the artistry, right?
Hmm.
Um, I love the cappuccino that thing
It
makes.
tastes so good, huh?
So it is awesome, and it's clean. It's easy to clean up. It's touch button. Yeah. So Phillips Latte Go. I expect to receive a royalty check.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
pumping their
it's it's in the mail, I think. In that
It's really
same
really good.
in the same vein, I we actually, before we had our coffee shop, I bought a German one, actually, oddly enough. German makes one called Melita. And I've been
Okay.
waiting for that thing to die for, the Germans, man, and German engineering. It's just that thing's gonna outlive me, you know. Um, but it's, you press a button, it grinds the beans, it compresses it, it puts the hot water in, everything. Tastes good to me, but you have a much more refined palate, I think,
I
uh
don't know.
coffee. I'm an
I like caffeine.
ignoramus. It's cat yeah. We're we're just we're just in it for the
What's
drug,
the
Yeah.
what's the if you don't mind me asking, like, what's the overhead? Not in numbers, if you don't want to say, it's fine.
Oh
But
no,
like
it's okay. So
overhead and like upkeep or something like that. Like, because you don't have to pay any employees. You have
yeah,
to
we
pay for
don't
the
have to pay any
electricity.
employees. You have to buy, like, the overhead would be like cups and coffee and
But
lids.
what
Yeah.
about the lease? Because you own the building, so
Oh,
there's no lease
so
either.
we own the building, so there's no lease. That's the nice side
That's
is,
crazy.
yeah, it's all it's all ours. So, Peter pays Paul, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no
Yeah.
um yeah.
So going back to just general entrepreneurial things you can do in massive cities, like this would be a cool example. If you've
Yeah.
got a little footprint, little space downstairs from me, I live in the market. Um, there's this little dark space between two of the buildings in the market where it's covered. It looks like a little cave. A woman just popped up there, and she's selling like Tweakim and Duckboki and stuff. And
Oh,
she's
nice.
like just
Yeah.
in the shadow there. I wonder if, that's just some, it's like all of 10 square feet,
Hmm.
but maybe she owns it, and it's like, hey, why not? I could like flip this and make a buck.
Yeah.
Did we talk about the Truffle Girl in a different episode?
The what, one more time?
Truffle Girl. Truffle?
No.
No, okay.
Tell me
Yeah,
about
this is
this.
something that my girlfriend told me.
Yeah.
All right. So a phenomenon going on in Seoul and Korea and maybe in other places. I haven't seen it. I haven't traveled much in the last 3 years. Cruffles. Does this word mean anything to you, Jack? Cruffle.
Uh, did you say cruffles or truffles?
Cruffle.
Okay, I
Croissant
know what a
waffle.
truffle is, but that sounds like you need more than just 10 feet
Truffle.
to okay, with the pigs, smelling out the
No, no,
truffles
no, no,
and
no, 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 no.
okay.
A cruffle is a croissant waffle. So
Ah.
you can make them at home. Like Pillsbury Doughboy things. You can, just it's bakery that you take out of the freezer and you slap in the oven, and boom, you got cinnamon rolls.
Yeah. Oh, I love those.
Spring,
Yeah.
spring can, right? Okay, so you can buy in frozen bag croissants that are frozen, and then you just put them in your oven. You get these nice buttery croissants. They're
Yeah,
actually not bad. I hate to admit it. They're
I
actually
know.
good. So what else you can do with them? Someone figured out is that you can take them out, let them. I think you have to thaw them out first. Girlfriend's making them here. She's got the waffle iron. You put the croissant raw onto the waffle iron, and you put that on the stove, and you get
Ah,
a waffleified croissant. So it's
yeah.
super buttery, super rich because there's so much damn butter in a croissant, or butter flavoring, which is probably these things.
Hydrogenated
And
cooking oil. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no way it's that
Right.
good. I mean, maybe it is. Who knows? So
Who knows?
this trend has kind of hit Korea, and there was this. I thought we had talked about it. It must have been something she showed me.
You might have mentioned this before. I
Yeah,
my memory is awful.
I thought it was. I thought it was an article that I was reading, so I thought maybe it was something Kevin had brought. So anyway, this girl, she in her little 100 square foot apartment, so like 5 pyong apartment. Okay, super efficiency. It's like living
Hmm.
in a truck, dorm room, smaller than a dorm room, right? She starts making cruffles, and she wraps them up nice, like in a little brown paper bag, and she starts selling them to people in her building. Now she lives in a building with, I mean, I don't remember all the details, but you could imagine like the average apartment buildings here are like 10 to 20 stories.
Hmm.
So she's like one of these buildings, one of the efficient buildings. So she puts up little flyers and stuff and is able to sell her cruffles. And then the business picks up. I don't want to misquote the article, but the general picture of it I have of it is in my memory. She's now working with Tech Bay, so delivery drivers. So guys show up with a little motorcycle, which is a really
Hmm.
common thing in Korea. Delivery super
Yep.
cheap here.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you have a package you need to ship in Korea, you don't have to go through a post office or anything. You just call Tech Bay, which is like basically a dude on a scooter, and he's got like limited amount of space on a scooter, but you can use that for shipping stuff. Like my girlfriend does it for her company
But
all the
he'll
time.
weave in and out of traffic and get you there ASAP. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So she starts working with the little scooter drivers to take a grip of Cruffles to another like office building.
Yeah.
She's running this whole thing out of her 100 square foot apartment, and she was clearing like six figures. Just insane. It became her
Wow.
career. Like how long that
Unbelievable.
lasts, I don't know. But how cool is that? I think that's cool because you can do that in the density of a city like this. You're not going to pull that off in Atlanta. I mean, it might work for a little bit, like
Someone will
if you're on
just
the right
rip you off,
business,
unless you trademark it. Yeah.
all that. But I'm just saying the density. It's where did that catch fire? It caught
Yeah.
fire because she did it in her own little building. There's enough people there to be like, damn, this is nuts. Like I could just keep on buying these frozen bags of croissants and just keep on going with it.
Yeah.
So
I was just trying to
well,
think of now I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like pancake and croissant. Doesn't roll off the tongue. Croissant.
you're gonna
I
try
don't
to
know.
you're gonna try to make, yeah, it's not good. That's
It's
not good.
not it's not gonna
That's not
fly.
Brandon. Truffle
No,
doesn't sound
no.
too good either.
No.
Sounds
Um
like when you leave a waffle in your pocket. There's some
yeah.
truffle in there. Just
Ah, pocket waffles. There you go. A
yeah,
snack for
no, that doesn't
later.
sound good either.
Just this
The
kind
pocket
of grease
waffle does
spot
not
just
sound good.
kind of coming through your pocket, yeah, all the butter.
Sounds like an insult. Ugh, pocket waffle.
Um,
Pocket waffle.
the funny thing about this, like, just entrepreneurship in Korea that I appreciate is, and maybe this transcends, Korea and is everywhere, is that as the older I get, the less I'm inclined to believe the product, like what you're actually doing is where the passion and the excitement comes from the business. Like the product is almost irrelevant in a way, because you're doing something, and this business is starting to take off, and you're finding some success. That's almost as energizing as like whether you're selling croissants, or whether you're selling t-shirts, or whether you're selling guitar parts or whatever. It may eventually, you're going to get bored with whatever the product is, you know what I mean? Like I don't know if you can be totally passionate about some widget for the next 30 years, but the fact that you're the CEO, that you're calling the shots, you created this, and now it's
Mm.
successful. I think that's something that's very much overlooked or forgotten this in this day and age. We get way obsessed with like what the product is, and it's actually, I think people just want to feel, they want to feel competent, they want to feel successful, and the what the product is almost a byproduct of that feeling. I don't know if you'd agree with me or not. I'm wondering if
And
you.
I've never owned, I've ran some things that are kind of like quasi businesses, but I've never owned, a business. I've been around people that do.
Mhm.
Uh, Currently, and I'm hoping we can do this in a future episode in maybe like 2 months from now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Currently, um, my girlfriend, myself, we have a team where we've developed a company. We got our first round of funding, and it's going very well. But I'd like to do
Mhm.
an episode about it once we launch, maybe a little promo type thing. But in that situation, I'm working with people that have done a lot with business and creating. And I can say from observation, at least, that does seem accurate. I think anybody that creates um, that widget, and then if you're sitting up in the C-suite, you're looking at the next thing. You're gonna like, once that pattern's going, you know, who's the guy that I'm trying to think of, like an example, like McDonald's. What was his name? Ray Kroc. Is that his name?
Yeah, right, Ray Kroc.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I watched the movie last year. It was like Kevin Costner. Damn good movie. But
Or
that movie's all
Batman, it
about this.
was Michael Keaton.
Kevin Costner, Michael Keaton, Kevin Costner. They kind of look the same, don't they?
Yeah, they're same
My
generation.
memory
Yeah,
they do.
yeah, yeah,
In my
yeah.
memory, they look the same.
Sorry, I
Oh, it's
didn't
fine.
mean
Thanks for the
to
correction. I would have
call
done
you
that.
out
So I
there.
hadn't been corrected. But that movie, like a lot of movies that would feature, you know, that subject, it's going to focus on the development of that one thing.
Mhm.
But I think once you create it, and you now have businesses making the hamburger, you have the product, it's working, then what are you going to do? Well, you're going to focus on the franchising. You're going to focus on the next layer, the next layer.
Yeah,
And maybe
yeah.
you hit a point where there's just not something else to do with it. So then you just kind of offload it, and then whatever type of capital you can grab from that, you use to deploy into a new project, to try something else.
Right.
I think, again, I don't know. This is like way above my pay
We're
grade.
speculating, of course, but I don't think Ray Kroc was like a hamburger aficionado. I think it could have been hot dogs, it could have been burritos. I mean, for him, it wasn't the
Could have
product
been
was.
burritos. It would be so great if we had,
I
if
know,
that was
yeah,
like the dominant, eating burritos.
yeah, I'd be
Yeah,
happier.
he screwed us.
Um,
Yeah.
what about the? I love this conversation, but I like to channel Kevin here a little bit and pull it back to Korea a little bit more. Do you think that there are entrepreneurial opportunities in Korea, or is this idea? And again, this is kind of a loaded question because I already know the answer, and I already know your answer, but um, is this idea that the only thing I can do in Korea is teach English. That's it. There's no, they don't have any
That's
other
absurd.
opportunities. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever sworn on this channel, but I'm going to swear now. That is fucking absurd. If
Okay,
you
okay.
think that, then like, I can't even help you. Like, that is fucking absurd.
Right.
Like, if you're teaching here at any capacity, you're okay. Even if you're working in a job teaching, maybe you're with like YBM or something, where you just you have no choice. They're just going to load you with hours. You have no
Mm-hmm.
choice. They want to be there 60 hours a week. All right, let's say you want to try something else, find a different job. Come on. You can
Yeah, yeah,
find a
yeah.
job here like piecemeal if you want to. I have a friend who for years he just wanted to be able to experiment with life and travel and do different things. Didn't have the interest or the I don't know, I don't want to say acumen, didn't have the interest or the desire to try to get a different type of teaching job. So he just found a system where he found a couple of hawk ones that would take him on, let him go.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
work and then travel, work and then travel, work and do his thing.
Oh yeah, you told me about
Uh,
that friend. Yeah, because
yeah, he
his
is private.
yeah, because the juice for him was kind of like he needed the beginning and the end. Like he for
Yeah,
him the
seasons.
perpetual never ending idea was so soul crushing for this guy that he
Yeah,
just
so
wouldn't have made it, right? He just wouldn't have been able to
yeah,
stay, you know?
so it becomes seasonal. So
Hmm.
you can find ways to find time, is what I'm saying. Okay, bam, now you got time. That's like the number one thing you're gonna need
Yeah.
to be able to get along. Um, you need money. Okay. Two of my friends that opened one of the first and most popular breweries in microbreweries in Korea, they did something like this. If I recall the story correctly, when they came to Korea, they decided they wanted to have a business. They had
Hmm.
different targets, what they wanted to try to do. They were exploring different ideas, and their goal number one was just to save a shit ton of money. So what do? They went pedal to the metal, took up every single opportunity they could doing teaching because you can
Right.
teach 7 days a week if you want to. There's private lessons you can do. People will pay you $50 an hour to sit with their kids and work with them through a workbook.
Yep.
So they just went crazy. I think it was almost 2 years. Boom. Now I got a nest egg of money. Okay. Dial back the teaching, dial back the hours. Now I got time. Now I got money. You know, I think the hard part, if you want to try to build something here, is navigating legal things, right? Because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
linguistic
yeah.
issues, language issue.
Uh-huh.
But there are, um, oh, when I was more serious with one of the projects ages ago, we took it to the level that we went to, I think it was in Gangnam, the Seoul Business Center, International Business. I don't forget the name of it. Um, but there's help for foreigners that want to try
Hmm.
to create something.
And it's a lot of
Um,
the lawyers, they have like free legal advice. Like we're not
mhm.
talking, you don't have to walk in there. It's not like America where you got to walk in and they're going to say like yeah, that'll be $400 an hour for a consultation. I mean, they're here to help you as a foreigner. There's a lot of it I don't know what the word is, like infrastructure to
Yeah,
assist you, you know? Um, what's legal, what isn't legal, what can I, you know, it is possible. There is advice there. So,
yeah. But if your objective is to come here and to teach at least part time while trying to experiment with other things. Could be artistic things. You want to, play in your. Oh, I had some friends actually years ago. There was a group of guys that I knew. Um, I think they were from like Nova Scotia, I want to say,
mhm.
and they were. And again, I don't want to say names without people's permission.
Oh, no
I
worries.
think
Yeah, yeah.
because they pushed pretty hard. They produced some records. I think at least one of some of those guys were in a group that got I saw them in Spin magazine. Um
Oh, wow.
and the whole reason, at least in a conversation with one of them that I had, he said the reason he came and he was speaking for the others was because where they came from was a small town, wasn't a lot of opportunity. And if they came here, you could teach, you can get a paycheck, you get health insurance, you get large vacations, and but they also had interest in teaching in the first place. So my point I was trying to make is if you plan on at least teaching somewhat, and then with the objective of focusing on that extra time to do your project, do your entrepreneurial thing, do your hobbies, whatever,
Yeah,
cool. But if you don't like teaching, you're still going to have a bad time because that's part of your life then.
true.
Like,
Yeah.
so I think that might be another trap people fall in. It's like, you have to remember, it's like teaching's not necessarily easy and fun for everybody. Some people, it's really a slog. I've always loved it since the first
Hmm.
day. Never had maybe I had a bad day here and there, but I've never had like a bad week even.
Yeah, no,
I really, it's
I,
really flexible.
you and I are friends. I know that you're, super passionate about teaching and enjoy it thoroughly. I would put myself in that same basket. It's part of my educational background is in education, and so I do enjoy it too. The trap of I think the trap is that there are a lot of pretty fun distractions that can
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
sure.
you've seen a lot of people that come here with good intentions, and as they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? So you do your teaching
Yeah.
job because you have to, or else you got to leave the country. But when it comes to the, ooh, Itaewon, Hongdae, band practice, you're being pulled in these different directions. I think it's only the ones that are really centered on their goals that are the ones that are actually going to be able
But
to,
that's
yeah,
anywhere, anytime. I
yeah,
mean, right. You gotta have, that's kind of universal. Something we should also add before the end of this podcast. We're talking about, again, channeling Kevin. Let's not just talk about people that come here to teach.
yeah,
So
yeah.
let's say you want to come here and you're not interested in teaching at all, or maybe you have been here teaching and you're kind of jaded, you don't like it,
Hmm.
right? That's a really common case. Like, you go to Itaewon and interview 10 foreigners, you're going to find 5 to 8 that'll bitch about their day job,
Sure, sure.
which is
Yeah.
also common anywhere in the world. But anyway, the point is,
Yeah.
they chose to like relocate to the other side of the planet to bitch about their job. So
Right.
that's an issue. Right? Why have
Yeah.
you done this? So a few of my very close friends, they were in this category. They were teaching. They had nothing nice to say about teaching, to the point I
Hmm.
almost found it offensive because I liked it. So it was awkward to be in conversations with people that just like always
Yeah.
complain.
Doesn't it
It's
suck,
like, I kind of
man?
taken this personally, guys. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like we get in conversations where people have had one too many beers, and it's like, teaching's bullshit. I'm like, I am a teacher, and I'm kind of proud of that. Like, whoa,
Yeah.
but it's because of the frustration. They weren't enjoying it. They didn't
Yeah.
find it. Didn't have a knack for it. It was a means to something else. But they weren't ready to um, leave Seoul. They
Hmm.
had community. They
Hmm.
had friends, and they're looking around them. They see all these bright lights, all these people. Hey, there's something happening here. So they got a MBA. It was a really popular MBA. I want to say it's partnered with like Syracuse University. It
Okay.
was relatively inexpensive. You heard of this one? I think it was like 10K or something, and it's 2 year program. So
Yeah,
the
I
classes
think
are
I'm familiar with this one.
unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know all the
Did
details,
they end up
but
doing
these
like
guys,
translation work for a company or something, or in some kind of
uh, no, one of my buddies, he worked for a patent office, so he wanted to experience working like in Korea at a professional level and doing
yeah.
something other than. So he did that, um, and got to enjoy all of the trappings of working for a Korean company, which
Which
might not have
it's
been the best
instead of
decision.
4 hours of practice a night, he was there for the last 5 minutes, Yeah.
No, I think it was a good experience for him, and it
Yeah.
built out his resume. And then he ended up going back. He got married here. He had 2 lovely children. They moved back to America, and
Hmm.
he's doing fine. And the other guy, he worked for I want to say it was I don't know what type, but a plastic surgery is huge here. So it was some
Yeah,
plastic
yeah, yeah.
surgery, and he was in, I want to say, public relations. I remember watching uh video advertisement type thing that he did. He was the spokesperson for it. Um, but those guys were, just dudes here with bachelor's degrees and teaching ESL and grumpy. And look what they
Right.
did. No, they were able to like give it a go, experiment. So
Yeah.
regardless
Yeah.
of the outcome and their happiness, whatever, you could judge that. go interview them. My point is, there's opportunities to get funky. Look what they did.
That's the one thing I
Yeah.
think that people don't understand is they think that teaching is the end all of all, you know? Oh, I got this Hagwon job. I'm not too happy with it. Well, there's nowhere to parlay that into anything better. And I mean, the funny thing is that I find in Korea is a lot of people are afraid to ask
Mm.
and investigate. And if you just put yourself out there, you'd be kind of surprised at how many people are actually looking for somebody to, looking for somebody like that. It's like, oh, no one's ever asked that before, but that's a very interesting idea. I mean, if you just put yourself out there, I mean, what's the worst that can happen if somebody says no? All right, then you move on to
Yeah.
the next thing, but to don't listen to the black pill people. They're
Yeah.
number one, they don't know
Do
what
it.
they're talking about, and number two, misery loves company, right? And they want someone else that they can kind of just like bitch and moan with and make themselves feel better about their position. And so
When we could do it, I think we did kind of an episode on that way back when we started this channel. And it
yeah.
might not be a bad visit, because I do like, and I mean, I've been fortunate in my life to have had the opportunities to allow me to say this, but I'm a big fan of just radical optimism, like
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
hardcore positivity, because why not? Just
mm-hmm.
why not? Um, not to the point of being absurd, but I think that's something that this podcast, we kind of started talking about those concepts because we were bringing, to the table, hey, it's a few foreigners that have been in Seoul for, combined, what, 40 years or whatever our tagline is.
Yeah, and had
And
great experiences, yeah.
yeah, I mean, we freaking love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it might not be bad to revisit that in a future podcast, talking about the whole like black pill scene, because I also know it's easy to find that contingent, because it's the human condition to be,
Mm-hmm.
satisfied and grumpy. It's not necessarily, you know, always the case that those people then find the motivation to get out of that. So yeah, if you go to Itaewon tonight, it's Saturday, is it? No, it's Sunday. Yeah, but if you went tonight, you walk into any pub, you could probably in a few minutes walk around and find that conversation
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
damn this place and damn that, and how crappy. And maybe one of those people will turn around and get their MBA and end up working for a patent office and experimenting with life.
Yeah.
But you know it's easy to think like that's just the plateau. I don't know.
Right, right. And there are, some obstacles to overcome, but they're not insurmountable. It does take a little bit of effort. And if you can maintain that radical positivity that you were talking about, you may find that what seemed like I don't know, a 3 meter fence is actually only, a half-meter fence. You know what I mean? Like getting over it wasn't as nearly as difficult as you thought it was going to be. And you're like, hey, well, I got over that one. Maybe I can get over the next one and the next one. And the
And I think
opportunities
most people
do.
here,
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, I think most people here have the ability to get weird and the ability to take chances, because if you came here already, you must have jettisoned, uh, something.
Right. You
It
came
takes,
over a
it
big
takes, yeah,
obstacle, right? Yeah.
yeah. You
That
already took a pretty wild turn to show up on the other side of the planet. Come on,
yeah.
buddy. Come on.
This
No,
wasn't a
it's
this wasn't a 2 hour flight to Cabo San Luca or whatever that
yeah.
place is, you know what I mean? Like this is this was quite a leap of faith. And so if you're willing to come this far, investigate a little bit farther. You might find something very interesting that you might not have even known existed. So yeah. Um
Yeah, we should find some more people to interview that have messed around, transitioned between careers and different projects. We should get some more interviews.
Yeah, I'll leave today's podcast with this. Ryan, I got an email from one of our listeners, and he's quite the avid biker. And so he was really interested in coming on the podcast. So I thought maybe I will schedule him for a couple weeks and we can talk to this guy. He's been around for a while. He's an expat, and he's got quite a bit of experience doing bike trails and things like that. So I thought maybe connecting you guys would be the the perfect synthesis. So yeah, I'll set that up. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, all right, man. Hey, thanks for chatting. And maybe today we're sans Kevin, but I think he'll be back in a couple weeks for our next podcast. And to our listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in. We are doing the podcast every 2 weeks. And if you are a fan of the podcast, the best thing you can do for us is go to Apple Podcasts and give us a positive review. That really helps us out. And you can go to our website at thesoulpatch.com, and you can listen to the podcast right there in its audio form. So with that said, thanks a lot, everybody. We will see you next week on The Patch. Take care.
Underground where I frequently polish the steel of my frame, tampering limbs while repeating